I'm calling this meeting of the July 12th, 2022 City Council meeting to order. Could I please have a roll call of the members?
Council President Roeder?
Present.
Councilmember DePriest?
Here.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember White? Here.
Councilmember White, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. Okay, all together. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Members of council, do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none. All right, we will go ahead and proceed. First, ladies and gentlemen, we have many activities involved in a city as it works that the city staff takes care of, but still has to be approved by city council. I would like to go through those consent items right now. Item 1A, appointment of Dennis Dodd to the Veterans Commission. 1B, approval of the Rain Tree Estates final plat. 1C, approval of Airborne Industrial Tracks final plat. 1D, approval of Honeysuckle Avenue and 4th Street roundabout pay request number 3. Item E, approval of Honeysuckle Avenue and 4th Street roundabout change order number 5. Item 1F, approval of consent to sublease from Kootenai County and Lakes Highway District. Item 1G, acceptance of the right-of-way and easement for the Maxwell Family Trust. 1H, approval of PZE 22-0059, the Gregory Vacation of Easement Request, the written decision. 1I, the approval of the 2022 National Night Out Event Permit application, the support agreement, and the loudspeaker request. Item 1J, approval of the Harbs bill for payment. Item 1K, ratification of the June payroll. And 1L, approval of bills for payment. Members of council, do you have any comments or questions regarding any of those items?
Might I just clarify 1F, just so you know, because I had a question from somebody earlier.
Okay.
We discussed and have approved in a previous meeting, I think it was 2 meetings ago, to purchase the Lakes Highway District property, their buildings. The property sits on county property and there's a lease involved, and we would be a sublessor, and the council, when they approved that, wanted to make sure that the county was in agreement that our uses would be okay. So that's what this agreement is about. They are agreeing that the city of Hayden's uses would be allowed under the lease agreement. And so that is just them agreeing that we can sublease that.
Excellent, okay. Any other questions or comments on the consent items? Is Mr. Dennis Dodd here this evening? Okay. Hearing no other comments or questions, we have a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I make a motion
Motion.
to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Second, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, could we have a roll call vote?
Council President Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember White?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. The second phase of our session tonight, item number 2, is the visitor and public comment. If you folks have any public comments, we would be happy to hear them at this point. As you can, I hope that you folks all have calendars and agendas. We do not hear public comment on items that we are going to be taking action on this evening. If you have comments other than that, we'd be happy to hear them. If you would please fill out a form at the back of the room there and bring it up to us, we'll go from there. We have Miss Amy McCalmy. I apologize if I mispronounce it. Is it McCamley?
McCamley.
Thank you very much. Ms. McCamley, would you please state whether or not you are a resident of the city of Hayden?
Yes, I am resident.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. So yesterday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which is pretty inconvenient for most people who work and have pickup for kids' school and things like that, there was an urban development meeting. And I just recently found out that those meetings even exist. I'm not sure if anybody else in this room knows that they exist, but I had a couple of friends who attended. I was not able to attend. And so based on the information I received, and a little bit is secondhand, I'm just really going to encourage the city council, if it's in your power, to please make the public more aware of these meetings, for one, not just on your website, but just make it more well-known. And then two, if it's possible to just even do a town hall where we can learn more about what the role of the urban development department is, and so that we can understand as a community what their role is, because it's my understanding that the role of urban development is they're really holding the purse strings to the city. And it seems like they are kind of almost like another level of government. And it almost seems like they kind of hold more power than our city council. So when we're coming to you for things like wanting more parks in the city, a senior center, things of that nature, it seems like that has to be approved through the urban development department. And in their eyes, it seems like those aren't very profitable options to happen in our city. And so they welcome big box stores like Home Depot and Walmart because it brings in money and revenue. And it seems like the city of Hayden itself doesn't have a whole lot of money because the money's tied up to the urban development. So it would just be great to just have a town hall to kind of clarify that information, any misinformation going on, and doing it at a time that's available for families who are working so that we can all get to that appointment time. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe the meeting you're referring to is the Hayden Urban Renewal Agency meeting?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, there you go.
For correcting me.
Thank you, ma'am. I have another request for comment, but unfortunately, there's no name attached to it. It's for 10945 North Rocking R.
Yeah.
Does that bring? Yes, sir.
I didn't put my name on it.
Yeah, that's okay.
You're trying to be mysterious, Tom.
What is
Does
your
that
name?
have to do with Stone Creek?
Yes, yes, sir. Stone Creek North Wetlands. And if you could please state your name, sir, and tell us whether or not you are a citizen of the city of Hayden.
From the city of Hayden. Yeah, I'm here to speak about the Stone Creek North.
Yes.
We all met.
And could you please state your name and tell us whether or not you're a citizen of
Oh,
Hayden?
yeah. Thomas Schaefer, and I am a citizen proudly of Hayden. And so we met last month to discuss this issue, and at that time it was appealing if whether or not the logging could be ceased, and we know that could not be done. But anyway, I'm here to speak about whether or not we still believe that the city is exercising its due authority over the regulation and the review of the master development agreement for this extension of the Stone Creek North development. So I did receive your letter in the mail, Mr. Mayor, right here. And thank you for that. In there, though, there are a couple things that I appreciate, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to correct. First one, you said in here, extraordinary efforts of the city and staff to ask for comments. When I was here, what I heard was requests for assessment were sent out to various agencies. Some responded, some did not, but no further effort was made to pursue those that didn't respond. Now, if I'm saying something untoward, I apologize to the staff, but this is what I thought I heard. Secondly, you said Corps of Engineers had no comments or recommendations, and that's not true. I have in my hand here review letters from 4 agencies, federal and state, and the Corps of Engineers did identify this as a wetlands where they're putting in the development. I'm gonna, if I have time, cite specifically from those letters, but I'll just get right to the point. To date, 3 editions of development plans, which have been reviewed by the city using Welch Comer engineers on their behalf, have only addressed stormwater management. They have not addressed the issue of wetlands protection. Per Hayden City Code 12-3-4, Section 19, For projects which may result in potential negative impacts from the proposed development, additional studies may be required. Such studies may include, but are not limited to, additional geotechnical and/or environmental studies may be required to be completed by the applicant for submittal as part of the project review process in circumstances where the proposed project is located in an area where sensitive or hazardous conditions are present. This may include seasonal high water table, wetlands, surface water bodies. All three of those apply to this area that we've discussed before. It is our contention that the current master development agreement has not addressed protection of the existing wetlands as identified by the 4 agencies, which I will cite, that the existing wetlands is critical to wildlife and aquifer protection. We further contend, and I say we, I represent interested citizens. You know, you saw the appeal last time. We further contend that if the city ordinances were followed, the existing plat design would be providing the required buffer around the wetlands, which it is not doing at the time. We ask that the city shall require that the developer update all design drawings, plans, and engineering to show proper protection of the existing wetlands. Here are my 4 citations from the Army Corps of Engineers, the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and the Idaho Department of Fish and Game, and I have copies of each one. First one, Corps of Engineers, dated July 29, 2019. Third paragraph states, the wetlands on the proposed project area as shown in the attached map are isolated, intrastate, non-navigable. Fourth paragraph states, nothing in this letter shall be construed as excusing you from compliance with other federal, state, and local statutes, ordinances, or regulations which may affect this work. Number 2, Idaho Department of Environmental Quality, letter to the Planning and Zoning dated July 22nd, 2020. Letter states, a portion of the planned Stone Creek's North subdivision is designated wetlands. Attachments are number 1, a map of the wetland delineation, courtesy of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. That's my 3rd government regulating entity I wanted to cite. And number 2, metadata with GIS information about all U.S. wetlands. Last and most important, the Idaho Department of Fish and Game letter sent to the Hayden Community Development.
Mr. Schaefer, your time's up. I'll give you another 15 seconds to close up.
Thank you, because I'm almost done.
When he's representing the group, I think it's more than 5 minutes.
Not for
Okay,
this
well, let me finish, because I'm almost done here, okay? Approximately, this comes from the U.S. Department of Fish and Game, letter to the Hayden Community Development Department. Approximately 9 acres of the 10.5 acre freshwater emergent wetland and approximately 0.03 acres of the 3.08 acre freshwater forest shrub wetland are in this proposed development. Further, this letter states the fact remains there are wetlands on the property. This raises concerns that potential negative impacts have not been or will not be addressed, quote unquote.
Thank you for your comments,
Okay,
sir.
I got my point across. Hope the message is heard, and I'll be glad to give this, it's my one and only written copy, but
Sure, bring it. Oh, you have one? Okay. If you'd like to bring it up, that'd be fine.
sure.
There you go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Bill Brzee, is that correct, sir?
It's one way to pronounce it.
Uh-oh, what's the correct way? And if you could please state, sir, if your name and whether or not you're a citizen of Hayden.
Certainly. Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for letting me address you today. My name is Bill Breezy. I reside at 314 South 14th Street. It started off as Brzee in France, went to Brzee in England, and it's now Brzee.
Okay.
So, long history there, but my wife and I are residents of Coeur d'Alene, and I'm an architect, and I have worked on projects in several states that have been involved with regulatory requirements of the federally mandated National Environmental Protection Agency. And NEFPA, namely the Environmental Protection Impact Study, EIS, and Environmental Assessment. I was told by your staff that neither of these were done, and I have requested the environmental studies that were done for this project through the Freedom of Information Act, for which I have not yet received. So my comments tonight will be brief and be big picture and not specifically on the project being reviewed tonight. I like to see the details, you know. Let me start with when an EIS is required. Section 650.7 states that, it's titled When to Repair an EIS. And it states, the following categories of action used to determine whether or not an EIS is to be prepared. An EIS is required for, 1, stream channel realignment or work to modify channel capacity by deepening or widening where significant aquatic and wildlife habitat exists. 2, environmental impact. Will this action significantly affect the quality of human environment? For an example, will it significantly alter or destroy valuable wetlands, important farmlands, cultural resources, or threatened and endangered species? Will it affect social values, water quality, fish and life habitats, or wilderness and scenic areas? For adverse effects that cannot be avoided, what are the important environmental amenities that would be lost if the proposed action was implemented? Are there alternatives for planning objectives that would avoid the environmental effects? Short-term uses versus long-term productivity? Will the proposed actions in combination with other actions sacrifice the enhancement of long-term productivity as a trade-off for short-term uses? And will the proposed action irreversibly commit the use of resources such as important farmlands, wetlands, and fish and wildlife habitat? The criteria for determining the need for an EIS. An EIS is required if environmental evaluation reveals that actions carried out under the program have significantly and cumulatively environmental impacts. A national or environmental impact statement, EIS, under the United States environmental law, a document required by 1969 National Environmental Agency Policy, NEPA, for certain actions significantly affecting the quality of human environment. An EIS is a tool for discussion making. It provides positive and negative environmental effects of a proposed action and is usually lists one or more alternative actions that may be chosen instead of the action described.
1 minute.
Oh, okay. Anyway, it's longer than I thought. The intent of the EIS is to keep key decision makers, stakeholders, and the community in balance to implement the action with impacts surrounding the human or natural environment, and provide opportunities for mitigating these impacts that include all stakeholders, including public, and especially those affected by this project, the surrounding property owners. One of the conclusions of an EIS is a finding of no significant action, a FONSI, which may have the conclusion that the agencies have studied, and this action can, and that will allow the project to move forward. I know I've been speaking big picture, but I have a couple of examples that I was personally involved with in Tucson.
Sir, I'm sorry, I'll give you about 15 seconds to wrap up.
I was designing a project that was killed because of a plant, of a protected plant that only is visible for 3 months. In Kauai, Hawaii, I had to redesign a project due to blind spiders being found in a lava tube. We had to redesign the whole place because once it was discovered, we had to save their lives.
Sir, I'm sorry, but your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you for your comment.
I'd like to see some of the reports, and so I can, be more prepared and able to help you more.
And I would be happy to, I was somewhat involved in those types of things. I'd be happy to talk to you after the meeting.
Okay.
That'd be great. Do we have anyone else who would make any public comments? All right. Moving on to item 3 on our meeting tonight, unfinished business. Action item, to discuss the findings of the Honeysuckle Beach study. I have no particular format for us to discuss this, council. I would ask, you've all had a chance to take a look at the study. I would ask each of you to give us some ideas. And then as we reach the end here, I will be asking council for some sort of a motion to do something along the lines of the study. Would you like to go first there?
Sure.
Councilmember DePriest.
Thank you. Boy, of all the things so far, and we're looking at, what, 7 months now, I guess, that I've been a council member, this issue is by far brought the most attention to my inbox and my comments and things like that. And it is a very difficult situation we're in with Honeysuckle Beach. Whether it be the boat launch, the beach, moving it over is a huge decision that we're all going to be involved with. There's significant numbers on all sides who advocate for what they would like to see, and it's understandable. And we have to try and look at what is best for the 17,000-ish plus citizens of Hayden, as well as the Hayden Lake people who live there and in the surrounding areas. But what struck me the most, and before I would be willing to move forward with anything, is the need for the studies to be done and the costs of those studies, and if it's even feasible. I received a letter from Jan Wilkins, president of Hayden Lake Watershed Association, and a pretty good list of studies that I think would need to be engaged in, just to give us an idea. And I don't even know if we can afford the cost or what these studies would be. Study the flood capacity, the area below the outlet that affects the effects of filling the current overflow channel and parking lot. Study the flood discharge current speeds. Study the current wetlands areas. Study the bottom structure, and this is one that I think is really important, just in my limited knowledge, but just what I would assume would be very, very important. Study the bottom structure and depth of Honeysuckle Bay, the effects of dredging a channel several hundred feet long, the effects of lower Hayden Lake Road traffic, a study on that, wave impacts on the adjacent property owners, legal expense, exploring the ramifications of a city-owned boat launch outside the city's limits, the expenses to move or relocate Hayden Lake Sewer District, irrigation pump stations, the lake's carrying capacity, how many people, how many boats can that lake handle. And so again, I think my greatest concern is, before we really even make a decision, one way or the other, is I think we must engage in those studies, and then also, before we can even engage in those, determine, do we have the resources and funding available to have those studies done.
Who else would like to speak regarding the study?
I guess it's my turn.
Council President Roeder.
Thank you, Mayor. Melissa Cleveland, I just have a couple of questions. Perhaps you could go up to the podium. Melissa is the engineer that spearheaded the study that was conducted. There was, I believe there was an architect that was involved also,
John Mueller?
John Mueller. And we also had another expert. And who was that, Miss Melissa, that had input on this?
The public involvement person?
No, who did we contract with to help with studying where we are today and produce?
I think that was it.
That was
wasn't it? Yeah, so it started as just like a city-led project with John Mueller's assistance, and then Gemma Putty from Horrocks helping with the public involvement portion of it.
That's the part I was, okay.
Yeah, yeah, and then I didn't work at the city anymore, and so the part that I was contracted to do was to finish up the report. So the recommendations really came out of that multi-jurisdictional working group that was established to kind of help flush out all of the, brainstorm all of the solutions and issues and permitting and just make sure that everything was kind of addressed.
Okay, thank you. Now, both Councilmember Satterfield and myself, we sit on what's known as the Facilities Committee for the city, and that's where we look at our assets, our land assets and our buildings, and then consider what's needed and where we may have issues. And it was brought to our attention, it may have been a couple of years ago, that we were having conflicts between boat folks that were launching their boat and beach goers with little kids, and that there was a safety issue. So Roger and I think the mayor and we may have had some other folks, we met down at the Honeysuckle Beach to kind of look at firsthand what was being told was a problem. And I believe there are some safety issues, because if you know where the buildings are located and how the boats have to back up, and I'm a kokanee fisherman, I go down there, I've been involved there. I don't know that anybody has been hurt, but I think there's potential for injury. And so safety was one of the issues that came to the forefront of why we need to look at this. Now, that was just one of the issues. The other one was, and I learned this from our clerk, who said she found a newspaper article 20 years ago that Honeysuckle Beach was overcrowded back then. So this is not a new issue of overcrowding. And I know we have probably about a 4-month period, Memorial Day through Labor Day, and a little extending either way, that we have, I think, an overcapacity, and that's the way I'm going to put it. I believe we've been at the maximum carrying capacity of that asset for many, many years. And with the growth we have, it's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse. So then the question is, as council members and with our experts, well, how do we solve something that's overused and to make it safer? And so after I read the study, I have several concerns. Number one, and this is where I'd like to ask Melissa, I think there was a number tossed around, or at least given at one of our meetings over the Honeysuckle Beach, about what a study would cost to analyze where is the permanent lake bed, and then where's the debris that settles on top of it. Because if dredging were to occur, we could only remove the unnatural debris that settles there. And that's a complex technical question. And Melissa, do you have an idea what that whole study would cost to look at just the dredging part of that possibility?
I do. I mean, we've asked, I don't have everything like summarized yet because I didn't know where things would go, right? And so I have reached out for scopes and fees with some different like subject matter experts in this type of thing. And with on the flood plain modeling and the geotechnical analysis out in the bay. And so I looked back real quickly, as I knew that one would be the big ticket item. Now, I want you to, be with a, understanding that these scopes haven't been flushed out. I haven't gone over this stuff with Alan. We haven't, there could be things in the scope that we want to reduce or take out or whatever, but that portion of the scope that they gave me was around 70,000.
70,000. Mm-hmm. So there's some major cost in the proposals that have been brought forth. Now, I'm going to summarize on two of the options that I understand are in that study. One is to move the boat launch from where it is currently to the new location towards the, it was at East Hayden Lake Road, that that goes along the lake there. I'm opposed to that. I'll put it straight up. There are times of the year where that's frozen. And currently, there are people that go out there in the winter and fish and access the lake that would eliminate the use of that boat ramp. I'm not for spending lots of money and having something that's not used. Like there's a BLM boat launch on the Spokane River, across the Spokane River Bridge on Highway 95. It can only be used certain times of the year because the water drops, you can't use it. And that's, I think there were millions of dollars spent on that facility. I don't want to spend money on something we can't use. So the other problem is this last year was one of the lower water years that we've had for the lake level. I looked at this historical graph on it. It wasn't the lowest, but then brings into the question, could there be a time of year in the low water years, even though we would dredge, because you can only dredge down to the natural lake level, lake bed level, you can't use it because there's not enough water. So I'm against that option. I want to be straight up on that. Now comes for the big issue is how do we deal with the overuse of an asset? And I'm going to tell you, I'm not for doing a shuttle, which there's a proposal to shuttle people from what we have I think it's about 5 acres of a gravel area that's on the north side of Honeysuckle. It's fenced, and the proposal is to shuttle people back and forth. I'm not supportive of that because in my mind, that could increase the usage of the facility. So I'm opposed to that. So my only solution, I've only come up with one solution, and I ran this by a Dave, and I forget his last name, he's like the number 2 police officer down to the Coeur d'Alene Police Department.
Chapman?
Hager.
Dave Hager.
Oh.
He's a citizen of Hayden. I said, Dave, we have a problem down there. I'm going to throw out an idea on what you think. And this is what I would propose, is that we have a restriction on what we can charge for the existing parking area, which is next to the beach, next to the launch, the main parking area, and just a little further west on the right, it would be on the south side of the road, there's some additional parking. There are grants that are tied up into the development of the ramp and the beach that say that we can only charge double for out of state or non-residents than we can in state or residents. Currently, we charge $40 for an annual fee. That means people from out of state, $80. It's not a deterrent for people that are out of the state to come here and use our local facility. However, and this is where I ran it by Dave Hagar, we have a parking along Honeysuckle Road that you'll see that the boats, a lot of times the boats will park along there. I want to reduce, I don't want to maintain, I want to reduce the usage. We have an asset that is way overused, and the only solution that I can come up with, and I'm looking for other ideas from anybody else, but this is what I've come up with, is that we would have as far as I know, the grant that we got does not apply to the parking along Honeysuckle Beach. That becomes a city issue on
Honeysuckle Road.
Honeysuckle Road.
Right.
That becomes an issue of the city and parking. So we charge out-of-staters $1,000 for a permit, and we charge locals $5 or whatever. We have to reduce the usage, and that's my position. That will, once people find out that they can't, it's filled with the $40 parking spots are, and they come over here and they go, well, I thought my $40 will work along Honeysuckle. It doesn't. Once they find that out, they'd have to buy $1,000 permit. I'm just tossing a number out here. And that will deter the usage. And so again, local people would be charged. Where I grew up in Connecticut on Long Island Sound. We had the same problem. We were 50 miles from New York City. we had the locals, you had a beach sticker, and that cost like $10. That was 50 years ago. But the non-local people that would come from New York on the weekends, from New York City, would want to use our beaches. It was like $500 50 years ago. It was a deterrent. So the only way I want to reduce it. I don't want to maintain the usage of it. I mean, it's overuse as it is now. And that's my proposal, and that's where I stand.
Councilmember Roder, may I ask a question? I had brought this up a while back, and it seems to me that I was told that strip is county. Am I correct in that?
Part of it. Yeah.
That parking, where the
Yes.
boats park is actually county land. Would we have jurisdiction to do something like that?
So let me address that. I talked to Dave Hagar about this, and he says the city of Coeur d'Alene has a similar situation with parking where the county owns it, and they've worked out a deal.
That would be, yeah.
And that's why I'm bringing this forward. Good
Thank you,
question.
Mr. Roder. Good question. Councilmember Satterfield.
I'll try to be brief. I don't want to,
Excuse me for just a moment, Mr. Satterfield. And Ms. White, do you have any more questions for Ms. Cleveland?
I don't.
Okay, you probably sit down then.
I
Ms.
have
Cleveland.
one question.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Is there an agreement between the county or whatever for the use of that other location for the launch? Where the ditch
Is there an agreement now?
Yeah, or is there an understanding that it could happen?
I think the different parties are aware that it's an alternative in the plan, but there's not been like an agreement put together or not until the city decides if that's something they want to move forward with.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Satterfield. Thank you, Ms. Cleveland.
Yeah, I just want to thank Melissa and staff and everybody who's been involved in this. It was simply to try to accumulate ideas. We knew they would be limited. We knew they might be radical. My position is I don't see where the city of Hayden is ever going to, I shouldn't say ever, ever's forever. I don't see them ever really coming up with the money to fund all of these studies and stuff. And the studies need to be done. The quality, I've lived here over 60 years. Hayden, the bay we're talking about is where I used to catch minnows to go fish for trout. Everything's changed, and I'm not against change, but there needs to be some very in-depth look at the impacts any changes will have on this, and we simply cannot afford it. I mean, we're talking a place that gets used maybe year-round by a few. I would, say to this audience, would you rather us put $5 million towards studies for a use of that, or do you want us to try and fix the traffic you all drove to get here? I think we have more priorities where we can spend our money and stuff. And I just don't think it's one of those things, and Councilmember Roder hit on it. It's one of those things, build it and they will come. We could buy 10 of the houses along, I think they refer to it as Gold Beach. It'll be filled up. Then we're right back to where we are again. So I think we need to look at trying to make who can use it a better experience, a more pleasant experience, address some safety concerns. And I agree with Matt that we need to look very hard, and we have, but is there any other way we can limit people who live outside the city or on Hayden Lake? The out-of-staters, they're easy to pick on. So let's try to eliminate some of that so our local folks who are actually paying for it. So anyway, I didn't mean to ramble.
No, thank you very much for your comments. I appreciate it. Councilmember White.
Yes, I just like to say I'm really glad we're looking at this. I think Honeysuckle Beach is unique to Hayden, and we all love it, and it's a special place in our hearts. I've gotten a lot of letters about this and about the beach, and I've also gone to look at the alternate site for the parking and the ditch that's there. My concern about the ditch and the second launch, I have a lot of them. One is that ditch, it's just huge. It's deep and it's big and it's long and it's wet. And I think to turn that into a parking lot, besides the cost of all the studies, think about the cost of all of that. And then putting a launch there, that just changes the whole character of that whole area. I saw kids out there swimming. I saw dogs swimming. It was just a fun place. And I think that any kind of change to that would really change the character of that area. The traffic on the lake would be increased. And I think that the lake has quite a few issues with overcrowding, and I think that adding too many more to the lake is going to be detrimental. And also traffic on that road. Now, we've driven in Middle Eastern countries, so we know how to make turns, but coming out of that little parking area, going on to East Hayden Lake, we almost got hit twice, and that's without a huge parking lot there. So I'm concerned for that. Another thing I'm concerned about is the jurisdiction. You know, right now, Honeysuckle Beach is ours. It's Hayden. We make these decisions. But if we go and share it with county land, we share the jurisdiction, we share the decisions, and I don't know, would we have to pay a fee for it? I just don't think we should have any agreements with the county on this. And also, I don't think we should accept any grants that have strings attached, because I know that was also mentioned, that grants are available. Well, okay, we could take a grant, but if it has conditions, we need to really consider those. And I heard today that we have some grants with conditions, and I think we need to really consider where we get our money from, because free money isn't free. So I think that studies are good in some places, but I think in this situation, I don't think it'll take too much money to fix up what we've got. And I think that if we channel money from studies into improvements, I think we would have more bang for our buck. I don't think we can do a whole lot right now to help this summer, but we can do some things to keep it going. I know that we've heard that pipes get clogged from the sand. People try to clean their fish in the drinking fountain, things like that. Let's just go look at it and see what we can do to mitigate some of those things. Do we need more porta potties in there? I've got some there, what kinds of things we do right now real quick, fix it up, and then maybe get a task force or one of our committees here in the to look at it. I know everybody has an opinion. I mean, you folks are here, you care, you've written and you care, and I know that you would like to have input as to what does happen. I think this improved payment system is a step in the right direction. We've got it so that people can pay with more forms of payment, and I really admire our staff for getting that going. And maybe we could hire someone for the weekends to keep an eye out. I think there are just some things that we could do with a task force of concerned citizens to come up with some ideas that would work right now. When I went there on Sunday, I was there last Sunday afternoon, and as I was driving along, going towards the beach on the side where there's all that parking, it was half empty. So that was a Sunday afternoon on a really beautiful day. So with that in mind, I'm not sure that a shuttle is necessary at this time. Let's see. So I'm against the shuttle right now. I was wondering if we couldn't put some flashing lights out at the end of the honeysuckle road. before it gets to homes and stuff. We don't want flashing lights bothering people, but just to help with the, maybe people at night running into the beach, some kind of a warning, dock ahead, water ahead, I don't know. If we could do something like that, that wouldn't be a very expensive solution to that problem. Someone was mentioning that, what about handicap access? And I was thinking maybe a boardwalk from the parking lot to the beach. Maybe some group would do that as a service project. So my conclusion is that money should be spent on immediate projects, small accomplishable bite-sized projects, rather than studies. And so I appreciate the study that's been done and would like to move forward with the less expensive options. Thank you.
I think the council's pretty much in agreement here, so I will keep my remarks very short. I do appreciate the time and effort it took to put this study together, very much. It was a huge effort. I do not see that moving the boat launch over to the far side of the lake would work at all. Somebody pulling out onto Hayden Lake Drive there with a boat trailer, you're asking for accidents to happen. In addition, it would hold fewer boats, and when you hit the overflow, you've got another set of problems with it. I can't even imagine trying to dredge Honeysuckle Bay to make that year-round boat launch. It makes no sense at all to me. I also have major concerns about potentially cracking the lake bed and creating a big drop into the aquifer. I think that's a valid concern. Studies could prove it, but I think it's a big concern. As Council Member Roeder said, and thank you, Abby, for finding that, this place has been overcrowded for 20 years. We understand that. We also understand that it's really overcrowded for 2 months a year, and mainly overcrowded on weekends for 2 months a year. I would encourage the council to consider an alternative here and basically live with what we have and try to make some improvements to the existing situation. I have had from some folks that are very, very familiar with Honeysuckle Beach, suggesting removing the guard shack and the concession stand. It really isn't being used right now. Perhaps extending the bathroom and replacing some of the curbing. Also that the sand there is really not very quality sand anymore. Wouldn't be that difficult though to pull that sand down, put some new stuff in. All of that goes to the same alternative of let's live with what we've got there and understand that it's a problem. So with that in mind, council, I would appreciate it if, does any council member propose a new alternative to the boat launch that we have not seen in the study? Okay.
Oh,
Yes,
Mayor, I have not, the thought that I had about the parking along Honeysuckle Road was not in the study. So I don't know how to move forward, but again, the whole goal that I'm trying to accomplish, because I've talked to my neighbors and as they have young kids, I said, you go down to Honeysuckle very often? They go, no, it's too crowded. So when the local people don't want to go there, I'm trying to figure out, well, how do we solve that? So I want the priority to be for the local people. So with that statement, I'd like to maybe, my motion would be to take some steps to look at the feasibility, and we don't need to hire a consultant to do it, but whether or not we can do a dual parking permit situation along Honeysuckle so that we could make it very reasonable for the locals and very unreasonable for the out-of-staters.
Councilmember DePriest.
I would agree with Council President Roeder. As I said, we had talked about that earlier, and if it is county along there, then I would, I guess, tag on to your motion if that's what that is. that we initially look into some type of a agreement, if that is county land, or a way to combine the city and the county together to create a parking situation that does exactly that, gives preference to the locals so that they have a place to park and can enjoy the beach. So if that's a motion, I'd second it, I guess.
But with your addendum of your idea there.
Yeah,
Yeah. okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with,
So can we put that into some sort of a more cohesive motion?
Could we, I'll take a shot at it. Okay. That, I'm assuming we would direct staff to initiate communications with the county or whoever has jurisdiction over Honeysuckle Road there? Is that Honeysuckle Road? And along that parking area to just initial looking into the feasibility of creating a parking permitting process as has been discussed here tonight.
Would that include any parking fees for the park area proper?
The park area?
no.
Okay. But you're talking about the parking area down by the water, not the strip of, yeah.
Yeah, initially, I'd just say no, because we already have we have that, well, there's free parking there. And my initial reaction without input from others here on your thoughts would be no, but I mean, that's something we could discuss. But that doesn't have to be done right now. I think Ed's motion is that we need to first see if it's feasible to work out a deal with the county where we could do a dual permit system and we control it. We set the rules on the parking along Honeysuckle. It's within the city.
Share revenue with them or whatever.
Would you maybe contemplate, the mayor had asked for like a decision tree, and I think you have a copy of it. I think you might want to, as part of this motion, be specific that you're, not moving forward with the other option, so that it's clear that you're doing that. And then you might then designate, this far side where it talks about improve current setup, make improvements. You could send it back to the facilities committee or another organization to make some recommendations that would include the parking. It could include other things that were suggested, whether or not, like there's a computerized system for boat launchers that maybe they have a window where they have to sign up so that we're controlling. So there's some other things that we can do to improve the safety and efficiency down at the boat launch if we are trying to make it better down there. And so parking is one of them, but there may be more. And so one option is to send it back, say we're not looking at the new option as part of the motion, and we would send it to the facilities committee to maybe brainstorm various options that can come back to the council, or if you want to have even another group look at it. So just maybe a way to organize that motion.
And if I can kind of tag into that, because it just came into my mind and I don't want to think about it, we're probably going to bring legal into it as far as what are we looking at, and the officer that you spoke with might be able to help us out with how you spoke of an instance where Coeur d'Alene is doing. What do they do? Because we may need to understand that structure of what we're doing. But I think, Brett, if you were asking to try and...
Well, I tried to give you kind of that decision tree, whether if you're going to move forward with the new option. It sounds like not, that you don't want to move forward with the new option. And then with that, though, I've heard that you want to make some improvements to what the current situation is. And there are more options that were suggested to improve what's happening down there than just the parking.
Right.
And so...
But I just would like to make the point that my goal in the option I'm proposing is to reduce usage. What other options do we have?
So I think when that group looked at it, the direction we got from council was to work on the safety and efficiency and not to try to expand the usage. So we weren't trying to look at the numbers, how can we accommodate more people? So I think that was built in somewhat into some of these options. And so there was, like a carrying capacity of how many boats maybe during the 3 major months, June, July, and August, and maybe September, that we have a problem with traffic flow going in there that, between those trying to launch boats, those trying to park and use the beach, that there are still some other things that we could maybe do to make that safer and efficient, but not try to, again, not trying to increase the capacity of the boat launch. Just making it safer and more efficient for those that are there. Because when you go down there at peak times during the summer, people are losing their patience with each other, there's safety issues, and there are better ways, I think, that we could look at how people can launch their boats and other things, and looking at parking or whether or not there's different fees for different usage.
So would perhaps we have someone on council make a motion to adopt a no-action alternative on the Honeysuckle Beach study and refer it to Facilities Committee for improvement of existing facilities at the site and examine
Including Matt's parking.
opportunities for parking?
Can I try this then, using your tree? Okay, I would motion to not move forward with the new option that was presented and to look to improve the current setup, but make improvements and designate a process to consider improvements to the current setup with staff, facility committee, or others, inclusive of the parking along Honeysuckle. Clean?
Okay, well, that's lean enough for this thing. Do I hear a second?
Well, if I like to include that whatever we do moving forward is that it would be a way to reduce usage. It's got to be one of the primary things in my mind that I'd like to see with when we move forward. I mean, improving things at the beach and the launch is part of what we should be looking at on a continuum. What I'm looking at specifically, it's overused. We've got to reduce the usage. And that's my focus on it. That's my goal. So the question is this going to go back to the committee, to the Facilities Committee, and are they going to look at, because the two parts of this current study was maintain the quality experience, make it a good experience, but also don't increase it. But it doesn't say anything about decreasing. And that's my goal, is we have to decrease usage at that.
Well, that I, when we went through this, I hadn't heard that we were, trying to decrease it. I thought we were trying to keep it where it was at, but make it more safe and efficient. So if you're trying to decrease it, I'm not sure what that means, or what numerically we could be there. But you're on that Facilities Committee, and so is Roger, so you can
Do
help
we need to go to
steer
a
that.
workshop with this maybe, and we discuss it? To narrow it down? I mean, we don't have to take action this year because we're not going to get anything done through this season.
I agree.
I would ask council to at least consider making a decision on a direction to go with this study. At that point, we would have the opportunity to delay your decision or to go to a workshop to discuss specifics.
Okay, then I'd like to make a new motion that we go into a workshop and discuss this issue on how to reduce usage at Honeysuckle Beach and boat launch.
Would that include a no-action alternative on the study?
Correct, right now, yeah.
How about if we just make an initial motion to take no action on the new option? And then, if we all agree on that, that's off the table, and then we make a motion as to how we're going to move forward.
I second that.
I think that might be a better way to go. So, may I hear a motion from council on whether or not to adopt the study?
Okay, I would try that. I would motion to not move forward with the new option.
I second that.
I've heard a first and a second.
I want to be clarification, when you say option, we're talking about to adopt the study.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to,
We've already accepted this study, and so it's there. I mean, it's done. We have it. We've accepted it. I think it's the option of moving the boat launch to the other side was the new option. And so you're not accepting to move forward with action to move forward with
right,
the new
but
option.
there was an option to also
Yeah.
shuttle too. That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
There
try this. Okay.
Mayor?
Yeah.
I have out of all those combined
8
motions, I have a motion by Councilmember DePriest for no action on the proposed alternates in the Honeysuckle Beach study.
Good.
That'd be the first. I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second. Do we have any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Satterfield.
A yes vote, just so I'm clear, a yes vote would mean we're not moving forward.
With any of the proposed
Okay, then
alternates?
yes.
Okay. Councilmember White?
Yes.
Council President Roder?
Yes.
And Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Now do we want to try and motion to move forward or to,
So I'll try to hit that
I like
one.
that. I like his idea. I like his idea a lot.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we have a workshop in the near future here, that we would look at how to reduce usage at Honeysuckle Beach and the boat launch, as it exists now.
Is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
May I ask Council President Roder, could we also include in that to discuss items, other items as well? I don't have anything specific, but other items as well, such as safety, addressing safety, and things like that.
Absolutely. yeah.
Okay.
safety and parking and,
Yeah.
Clarification.
Other issues associated with the boat launch and the beach.
I have a clarification on that. That would be a workshop with council members.
Correct.
Okay.
So,
I'll second.
second. All right. Do we have any discussion on that? Roll call vote, please.
Sorry, one moment. Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
And Council President Roder?
Yes.
How soon would you like to do that?
tomorrow.
Well, we're not going to do anything this year, so,
We have a little bit of time.
Yeah, we
Because
got
we've
time.
got some other priorities we've got to work on.
yeah.
here, so-
Budget.
Yeah.
Item number 3. 3B, the residential multifamily town hall meeting recap. Donna Phillips, I believe that's in your ball call.
It is.
Thank you.
Abby's passing out kind of a memo recap. Apologize for not getting it to you sooner, but I was gone yesterday, so. So on June 24th, the city sent out informational flyers and invitations to the town hall meeting held at City Hall on July 9th, last Saturday. We sent it out to 455 property owners of 551 lots within the residential multifamily zone. During the 2 weeks prior to the town hall meeting, staff heard from 6 individuals, property owners of properties, and all of those were very positive responses. And then at the town hall meeting, staff heard from 20 individuals, the bulk of those happening in the morning. As part of the sign up, we gave individuals the opportunity to be contacted after the meeting to ensure that their questions are answered and to have any follow-up. Because part of them, they were asking other questions other than just zoning. We did hear from 3 of the 4 property owners on Chateau when we had proposed single-family residential because they're single-family houses on larger lots. And the 3 that we heard from all wanted to go to residential suburban, which it's contiguous, don't have a huge bunch of angst with that. Some of the other things that folks asked about when they were here was that one of the property owners realized that they had a zoning development agreement on their property and they didn't know it. So they wanted copies of it to see what it said. One of the properties is affected by the airport critical zone. And they actually had 3 parcels, so they wanted to know how was it impacted, how much of their property was impacted. We're following up with them later this week. One of them wanted to know, they were sure that they paid cap fees as part of either a building permit or the 1995-2 LID, but they couldn't really remember, and so they wanted us to research that, try to figure out what they paid and who they paid it to. So we're researching that too, and we're meeting with those folks again. And then one of the things I really wanted to point out was the fact that we had lots of good, positive discussion with everybody that came in the door. We did have one individual come in that wasn't part of the residential multifamily letters that we had sent out, didn't want to sign the sign-in sheet. In fact, it's kind of noted at the top of one of them, and asked some really very general questions and then left again. None of the comments that we heard were negative. And in your memo, I'll leave that to your reading pleasure as far as all of the comments. They're by verbatim, but I tried to copy them, and when I copied them, you could see them. But when I scanned them, that blue just went into faint land. So I just typed verbatim what was on their comment sheet for your, so you could see what we saw. I did want to point out that, you know, we're kind of on the next steps of this process. We had their town hall. We've had very good, positive conversations from folks. And so the kind of the next steps is for staff to complete the staff review for the zone map amendment. That'll begin tomorrow. The agency notices will go out tomorrow on the 13th of July. Because we're required to have them have at least 14 days to respond to us before we notice to everybody that we need to notice for. We'll be sending out public notices to each of those residential multifamily properties, which we're not required to do, but we kind of decided in our workshop we wanted to keep everybody apprised of what was going on. And we'll be posting a legal notice as an advertisement because, again, this affects more than 200 properties. And so the legal code requires that we do it with 2 columns that are at least 4 inches tall, and it'll be at least that because of the number that we're noticing for the advertisement. We'll also be sending that public service announcement out to other outlets like the Nicholsworth and the Spokesman Review and KHQ and KXY and Prem 2 and everybody else that's on that news list. We posted on the city's website. It actually gets sent to the paper on the 26th, but it will post everywhere on the 29th, and that meets the required 15 days minimum before the August 15th public hearing with the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I did say that there were 551 properties, and part of those are like cul-de-sacs into subdivisions. Part of them are 3 or 4 properties along a single street. And so we would, when we post, there'll be postings. It works out to about 110 locations because we post on either side of the cul-de-sac as you're going into the cul-de-sac. We post a general sign when you have 3 or 4 properties side by side. It works out to just about 110 locations that we would be out putting a wooden picket in the ground and a 12 by 18 fluorescent something poster with the notice on it. It'll have an excerpt of their local area that they're around that are affected by the zone map and the proposed change. And it'll have a website pointing right back to the city's website where it'll be front and center what the proposed zone map will look like in its entirety. So then we'll have the August 15th public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Commission. Then we'll do the written recommendation before Planning and Zoning, probably the last week in August. And then we'll do that same noticing again, B through F above, that is in there, one more time, for the city council's public hearing to happen on September 13th. And then we'll adopt the new zone map resolution by September 27th, and the residential multifamily expires on the 28th. And that's the only way that this timeline fits to make that all happen, meeting all of our required noticing requirements that we're required to do. So the public, just so you're aware, the public has a right, has the ability and what have you to come in and talk to staff at any point from now until whenever. They can always come in and ask questions, give us comments. We always are willing to hear what folks have to say. But as far as the public notice for planning and zoning, they can provide written comments either by email or by letter back to City Hall up to a week before that date. So for the August 15th date, they can give us information all the way up to August 8th. And then we will have that in the packet before planning and zoning. So they'll have time to read it and digest it and all of that. Then they'll be able to participate either by phone or by computer if they use our go-to options, or in person at the public hearing for planning and zoning. And then again, they have that same ability to participate either by letter or by email all the way up to a week before the city council meeting, which is the 6th of September. And if that lands on Labor Day, it's the Tuesday after, so I would have to look. Probably is right in there. And then the same thing, phone, in person, or by computer with GoTo. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of opportunities to participate. And we want to hear from everybody that wants to comment.
Thank you. Brett, or you were there too, everything?
Yeah, I attended as well. I appreciate our staff, and actually the city attorney was there for a while, got there at 8 and they were there till 5 o'clock. And there was a rush at first thing in the morning. I think we had, like most people were there at 9 o'clock, and Donna did a nice presentation for them. And then there were 4 tables, and we were able to talk with the folks that were there and go through and answer their questions. And after that, there really wasn't, there was just a trickle of people kind of the rest of the day. I think after 3 o'clock, there was nobody. So I appreciate staff, coming in on a Saturday to, when people are off work, and trying to make it a time that was available for people to come and ask their questions. And so I thought, the folks that I spoke with seemed positive. So.
Okay, thank you. Council have any questions?
I have some questions.
Councilmember White.
So I was just wondering, so tomorrow, the notices that you're sending out, what do they say?
The agency notices that'll go out tomorrow will be a recap of the properties that are proposed to have zone map amendments to them and to request comments from them. Generally, zone map amendments bring in comments related from the airport, requesting navigation easements if they don't already have them on there. And then if there are other agencies that may have comments related to a particular zone in a particular area, they might comment as well.
Okay. Also, I remember we did a workshop together, like in April, and you were talking about council direction. One option you gave was modifying the existing purpose of the multifamily zone district and incorporating that zone into code. So where in this process can we do something like that?
I think we've passed by that. I'm not sure. I mean, the direction that I believe that I've received is that the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council wanted to move forward with the zone map amendment and did not want to reinstate the current code. Correct. If I'm in error, I stand corrected.
Did we vote on that?
I don't know.
I don't remember a vote on that. I remember we were.
It was a consensus of the council members and the Planning and Zoning Commission members during that workshop, because it was a workshop, so there was no action item.
Can I chime in? That's how.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Councilmember White, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about moving ahead with putting the the mixed use and the mixed residential into play, into assigning it to so many properties. If I misunderstood the process, I'm sorry. I felt like with the workshop that we did, that we had options moving ahead. I feel like the public spoke, and they really don't want to move forward on the things of the comprehensive plan. And I believe that solidifying this mixed use to mixed residential by assigning it to so many properties will violate the public trust. And so I would like to have us not be hasty in moving too forward. I mean, I know that we have a deadline, but we also did live with that zone unassigned for 4 months while we were, trying to think things through. And I think we need to do this right. And so I know that Councilman Roeder had talked about maybe two R1 zone, an R1, R2 zone or something, but I think we need to stop and look at this multifamily zone option and take a step back. I would like to ask that the council has a workshop next week and we discuss, I would like to look again at acceptable and conditional uses and things that could have density built into them. So I'm just asking that we just pause a little bit and have a workshop.
Got to hear a motion in there.
Yes.
An action item.
It's not an action item.
Oh, this is not an action item.
What you could do is similar to like in the discussion, you're just discussing, if you wanted to set a future meeting, whether it's a workshop or something, you could set a meeting to do that. But you don't want to discuss it here and make a decision on it because that's not a decision item. But you could set a meeting if that's the direction you want to do.
Okay. Councilmember DePriest.
Yeah, a couple comments on it. This has been going on for almost a year now. Basically, the discussion between mixed residential and residential multifamily. Somebody correct me and tell me in the code or whatever it is if I make a misstatement here. Mixed residential allows a maximum of 8 dwelling units an acre, regardless of the single-family, duplex, tri-home, regardless of the lot size or whatever. The maximum numbers on an acre is 8. Residential multifamily allows 5 to 12 plus dwelling units per acre and does allow a conditional use permit, which goes with planning and zoning and does not, if I'm not mistaken, does not come to council. So I'm gonna take issue with people saying that residential multifamily is less dense than mixed residential. We had that council workshop April, whenever it was, and I believe we were planning, and it was a consensus that we move forward and not reinstate residential multifamily. And that was, if I remember correctly, a large consensus. 20 people showed up Saturday regarding this issue of the almost 500 properties. I received 2, maybe 3 emails about this issue. I am not receiving the concern from the homes that are involved that make me believe that there is just this massive pushback. This is about the zone map, not the future land use map, not the comprehensive plan. This is about dealing with an interim ordinance that expires on September 22nd or 29th. The choice was to reinstate residential multifamily or basically mixed use, leave it as it had originally been. And I don't know if I'm using the right terminology there, but those were the choices. And again, I go back to the council in our joint workshop being, if I remember right, overwhelmingly consensus to not reinstate it. I think we drug this out very long. People will have an opportunity if they want their zone changes or to do something to take to make an application for their individual situations and then have those considered. But I think that that this has been discussed over and over and over, and I think it's time that we move on with business.
Council President Roder.
Yeah, I would like to ask Donna with what Councilmember Ed said about the difference in density does he have, I'm not saying he's right or wrong, I just want, because I don't know that off the top of my head. Can you confirm what he said, that it's true that the residential multifamily does allow for greater density than what they would be moving into, was it mixed use, you said?
Mixed residential.
Mixed residential, which is more dense, but which allows for more density?
Residential multifamily has a minimum lot size of 15,000 square feet for any dwelling from a triplex higher. So it doesn't have a minimum lot size less than, I mean, if you could get a fiveplex to fit on a 15,000 square foot lot, then you, by conditional use permit, you could allow that to happen. So if you took a 43,000 as an acre, right, and you had, could put three, we'll just round up to 45, you could put 3 lots that are 15,000 square feet, and you could put fourplexes on each of those allowed outright. That's where we're coming up with 12. Or if you did it by conditional use permit, you could potentially get more density in there, because if you could build it, you could make get your 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit and get your stormwater to work. You could potentially put more than that on it. Whereas a mixed residential lot only allows for 8, period. Period.
So his statement's true, is what you're saying?
If in the perfect world, yes.
I have an additional question. Okay, so how do accessory dwelling units fit in there? Because those are an accepted use. So with mixed residential, each home could have an accessory dwelling unit of 1,000 square feet.
If you had 8 lots, there were mixed residential, and all 8 lots had a single-family residence on it, on an acre, then you're done. You don't get any ADUs because you've used up your 8 dwelling units per acre.
So there's no ADUs allowed on?
After your density allotment is allowed, is calculated for that particular plotted area.
So an ADU is considered a residential unit,
It's
a
a
dwelling?
accessory dwelling unit. It's a dwelling unit. Yep. Yep. Good questions, though. That's really a good question, because it is confusing.
So,
And in residential multifamily, you're only allowed, you can't have an accessory dwelling unit on a duplex, triplex, or a fourplex. If you've got those multiple buildings already on there, you can't put a dwelling unit, an accessory dwelling unit on it, only on a single family lot.
I have another question. Can homes on mixed residential and mixed use be built by right without having to go through the city council? Is that something that the community development director approves, and then it moves forward?
Homes or accessory dwelling units, which ones?
Homes.
Homes can be built in any zone that they're allowed to be built in. Mixed use allows for single-family dwellings as a caretaker to a commercial use or to a multifamily use by conditional use permit.
Okay. Also, I know earlier in the process, I think maybe a couple of years ago when we were talking about, you were talking about mixed residential, it was considered having 6 per acre rather than 8 per acre. Is there a place along here where we could do something like that? Make that
Currently, the
change?
zone says 6 to 8 as uses, so 8 is the maximum. I haven't heard a request to change that or reduce that any further. I can say that on a different note, that the medium density under the old comprehensive plan was 4 to 7 dwelling units per acre, which was allowed anywhere, almost anywhere in the city except all the way to the exterior boundaries of the city. whereas mixed residential is 6 to 8, which is very similar to that same density. So it's not a huge increase in any way, shape, or form to what was already in place under the previous comp plan. And there are far fewer of them than there were under the previous comp plan.
Councilmember Satterfield.
I agree with Councilmember DePriest. We had a workshop with PNC. There was a consensus. I think what Donna has laid out for the future still offers lots of opportunity for citizens to chime in, and we'll get there. But I think we should keep this moving forward. It's been lingering for quite a while. That's all I have.
From what I'm hearing, Councilmember White has asked for a workshop to further discuss the multifamily situation. Are you, council members, are you or are you not in favor of an additional workshop to discuss the subject?
No.
Councilmember Roeder?
No, based on what Donna and Ed have identified, that there's less density with the new zoning.
Councilmember DePriest? No. Councilmember Satterfield?
No.
Councilmember White? Okay.
I'll be all alone.
Okay. All right, moving along then, unfinished business, item number 3, action item, the Gregory vacation of easement request and resolution. We do these very rarely, and I need to ask our legal counsel, what we're looking at here, evidently what we need to do is a resolution to approve this.
Yes.
All I need to do is ask counsel for a resolution to approve it?
Motion to.
I'm sorry, a motion to approve it?
Sorry. Abby.
May I have a motion to approve a resolution for the Gregory vacation of easement request?
So moved. Second.
Second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Council President Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
And Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
when we were trying to figure out if this was supposed to be an ordinance or a resolution, I just thought I'd give you just a little tidbit of me being confused as well. So when we pass a zone map amendment, we do an ordinance and we publish it so everybody knows that this piece of property has changed zones. That's how that goes into being enacted. I said, well, how does somebody who's doing a title report know this place doesn't have this easement anymore? Why would I publish it? How do I do that? So this resolution that's been adopted here tonight after it's signed and got its number attached to it, then we take it down to the county or send it down to the county and record it. And when we record it, that's what clears that easement. It shows up then as having an easement and having it vacated on property in future title reports. I just thought it was an interesting difference because I was asking the same questions.
Yeah.
So just for the edification of whoever out there. So.
Item number 4, new business. We have the approval of the Hayden Regional Sewer Board fiscal year 2023. Ken, you have been sitting there patiently. Hello.
Share your screen.
Come up. Ken, could you please tell the audience who you are and what you do?
I'm Ken Linderm. I'm the administrator with the Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board in beautiful Hayden, Idaho.
Thank you.
We're here to discuss the 2022-2023 budget, which starts on October 1st. I believe council has received information about our budget for 2022-23. I have a reasonably quick presentation to give an overview, and then we can get into specific questions council has. But I want to start with our clean water story. Every day, homes and businesses discharge pollution to the Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board. And one of the reasons why you can have this development here is because of the treatment plant. If you didn't have the treatment plant, you'd be working with Panhandle Health rules, 1 house per 5 acres. The wastewater treatment plant, we removed the innards, the grit, the concrete grounds, and then we removed the things that should have gone in the trash. As a reminder, the toilet is not a trash can. You put the trash in the garbage can and only put the pee and the poop in the toilet. This is why. This is Strawberry Fields pump station. That pump probably ran like that for at least 12 hours, going around in circles and not moving a gallon. And the city paid for the electricity. And I paid to have 3 guys go out, haul that pump out, and take those rags out of that impiller. And this is what showed up on the ground. Wipes, undies, and all kinds of other stuff got mixed in there. So please, the toilet is not a trash can. Put the trash in the can, garbage can, and put the pee and the poop in the toilet. So after we take all that stuff out, we're left with an organic soup. And we grow bacteria that eats that soup. Just like you have soup for lunch and it carries you through the dinner, this soup feeds our bacteria, and they eat and reproduce, eat and reproduce. And when they get done, we put them in a tank, the bacteria separates out and the water is clean and clear, ready for things like disinfection and followed by reuse and irrigation. The bacteria become biosolids, which we use for agriculture because it has nitrogen, phosphorus, it has carbon, it has macronutrients, which the farmer makes the wheat grow better out in Washington and also crops in Idaho. This is your environmental protection team. Every day, 365 days a year, we remove the pollution that comes from homes and businesses, protecting the Spokane River and the Spokane Valley Raft and Prairie Aquifer. So let's talk about the budget. I've got previous year's budget here. 21, we were at 2 million. 22, we were at 2.1 million. And we're proposing in 22, 23, 2.5 million. If we take out the tertiary treatment costs, as a reminder, we are installing tertiary treatment system to meet new discharge requirements for putting our water into the Spokane River. If we took out all those tertiary costs, the budget would be $2.0877 million, about a 2.8% increase. The tertiary costs increased the budget by $336,200, or about the total of an 18.42%, leaving the total budget at $2,509,976. And this is the O&M budget, operations and maintenance budgets, not capital, and it's not replacement. This is just what it takes to run the treatment plant. Here is a pie chart to show you a breakdown of the document that you got with our line-by-line breakdown. You can see the employee costs are the largest. Used to be closer to 50%, but we've had an increase in chemical costs, biosolids costs, and costs out at the farm that have increased their percentages. Our chemical costs in the last 12 months, polymer costs, and we use polymer to make the bugs stick together and release the water, increased 37%. Okay. And we keep hearing news accountants that Avista is going to raise the electric bill. So I've got the budget sheets here. I am prepared to go over line by line if you want. I particularly want to talk about this one. This is the tertiary, that's why it's purple. The chemicals for tertiary is $100,000. That's a new cost because the tertiary system's new. We've got tertiary treatment testing and supplies to run the tertiary system. It's $5,000. Electricity is actually going up about, what was the number? $150,000. We have natural gas now for the solar dryer, and we have the new dewatering building also has natural gas because we have to keep the old building warm too in the wintertime. And we need a forklift to take the chemicals that come in and put them in the building. And the current forklift is not capable of doing that.
Ken?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that $100,000 is a new cost because the system is new. Now, is that going to be an annual cost or just because it's a one time because it's new?
Every year.
Every year, okay.
And actually, that is only prorated.
Oh, okay,
So next year will be higher than that.
okay.
So we have a replacement budget. Our replacement budget is to replace major items, the clarifier mechanisms, the headwork screen, pumps, big ticket items. We, back in when I first got here in 2008, I think we had $150,000 in that bucket. And if you know about how much.
Per year.
Per year.
Going in per year.
Per year. And it's very easy, especially with the inflation, that money is not adequate enough. The board had FCS, who also works for the city, do a analysis of what we should be putting into our budget every year to cover replacement costs. We need to replace H3 pump station and controls. Right now it's working, but it's been there for 1986, I think it went.
86 is when we put the tertiary treatment in, but the alcohol came in later, so it's
Probably 93, something like that. So the pump station's been there a long time, and so we need to have the money in the bank to do that. The force mains, the Honeysuckle Road force main, where we replaced sections of it, we have more of it to replace. One section's already between Maple and 4th has split and broke apart twice. So our plan is that every year we'll increase the amount in replacement by $100,000. That was the plan that FCS chose, and the installed it. So in 2022, we did a 1.3 million. In 2023, we're doing 1.4 million. So if you take that plus our O&M costs, we're looking at $3.909,976 as a total cost for O&M plus replacement. This is what a breakdown of what the city will see come on October 1st, okay? On a monthly basis, we're looking at about $24,498 for O&M costs, and for replacement costs, it's
That's an increase.
That's an increase.
Right.
This is the increase, yes.
Yes.
That's increase from what you're paying today. And then on the replacement, it's $6,000 a month more than what you're paying today, for a total of $30,000. It's not on your, sorry. $30,808 increase over what you're paying today. This is the publication which will show up in the paper
End of August, first.
end of August. We have to publish this so that at our September meeting, the board can approve it after you all approve the individual budgets from each entity. Do you have any questions? That was very fast because Brett said I needed to be quick.
Did I see that correctly? Basically, it's $240,000 or $250,000 a month is what the city of Hayden will be paying? So what's that number? New total 23 or 2022, there's a line
Yes,
through it.
248,000.
Yeah, roughly $250,000 a month.
Yeah. Cleaning water is expensive.
Two questions, Ken, real quick. I know that Harbs maintains the sewer lines from the pump station to the treatment facility.
The force mains, yes.
Right, and then what about the lines from the residents or businesses to the pump station? Do you maintain those lines, and do we pay you for that?
You pay us to maintain those lines, and we have an agreement to do that, and that's what this section is right here.
Okay.
Yes.
So you maintain all the lines and take care of that. Second question is, I know that I'm the secondary person on the Harbs Board representing the city of Hayden. There was discussion about what if the biological processes fail due to contamination of the system, and you'd have to go to pure chemicals. Did you add more money in for those chemicals as a backup? Okay.
We have asked the board to set up a separate fund,
Right.
like the replacement fund, so when we have an event like that, we don't have to come to the entities and say, hey, I need to buy $100,000 worth of chemicals.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
And at this point, that is still in discussion with our board, our Harps board.
Was the intent, though, what was left over from the replacement dollars, that was supposed to then backfill to meet the requirement for
That was
that?
one of the options.
One of the options, yeah.
That was presented. At this point in time, it has not gone farther with the Harps board.
Is that the option that you want?
We don't care. I just would like to have a bucket that if we have an event, which we just had one recently, where something came in and all the solids in the plant went out to the farm. If that had happened in May, we'd have had a major effluent violation on our IPDES permit. And I'm not confident that Ferric would have fixed that problem. One of the things I want to make sure council understands, this budget right here, the O&M budget, okay, if we don't spend it, it comes back to the entities on a percentage basis of what you contributed. That gets to Brett's comment, is that's a potential funding source. Instead of returning it to the entities, we may take part of it, all of it, or set up a separate line item to build that bucket for, you know, a bad day chemical funding account. Okay, so whatever we don't spend, you get back.
Are we getting anything back from this past year's budget?
At this point in time, as of doing the financials for the end of June, there's an 8% that we have not spent. However, June is not complete because several bills did not come in, so it's going to be a little bit lighter than that. I would anticipate we'll probably end the year about 5%, which is about $100,000.
And that's divvied up among all the entities, or is that Hayden's chunk?
No, that would be a divvied up, and that right now you guys have a 72, I believe it's 72.5%.
72,000.
72,000.
75.72.
75.72%.
Clarification on that monthly, per month, 240,257. That is how much you're budgeting for this new year, but that isn't the total amount that the city of Hayden is paying per month.
Yes.
You haven't broken that out, or you have?
That is
This
your
is individual by, okay, got it.
This chart here is just for the city of Hayden.
Got it.
And the district and the airport pay their share too.
Right, okay.
And I just checked our budget, and that matches what we have in here for O&M going to Harps, the 248.
Does council have any further questions? If not, I'd be happy to entertain a motion to approve the Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board fiscal year 2023 budget.
So motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further discussion or comments? Roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Council President Roder?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember DePreez?
Yes.
Thank you, council, and remember, when you flush, think of us.
Before you leave, if I can ask one more thing of maybe the city, you brought it up in an issue at a meeting where you're concerned that certain chemicals from medical facilities could be flushed down the toilet, which could greatly affect you. Is that something the city should be notifying our users of the sewer? I mean, do we have a notice that should go out there, or is that something we're already doing?
The Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board passed a motion to have the entities inform their medical and veterinary facilities that there's an EPA requirement that all drugs are not to be put down the sewer, but properly disposed away from the sewer system.
So my question is, have we done that, or are we in the process of doing that?
We're in the process of getting that
Okay,
prepared.
that's all I want to know, whether that,
Yeah, okay.
thank you.
Thank you, council.
Thank you, Ken.
Sorry, wrong one. Abby, I'm leaving it to you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Item 4B, the TLP Enterprises private road request. Hi. Hi.
So tonight we're here to look at a private road request in the private road standards in Hayden City Code, Chapter 10. It identifies that anybody that requests a private road instead of a public road has to have approval by the city council. So that's why we're here tonight. So this is a project that has a minor subdivision that's been submitted and is in for review. And in your memo, you got to see pretty much the packet of the minor subdivisions narrative and plot plan. The property is on North Reed Road, kind of down here where Reed Road ends to the south. And it is a piece of property that was pretty much a remnant piece. I don't use that term, it's kind of quirky piece. So Leisure Park actually owned all the way over to almost to Highway 95 previously. Sold off parts and pieces of that to others. And this was a piece that was kind of left over. It was actually platted as part of Leisure Park, but it was never part of the planned unit development boundaries of the PUD. So it was kind of a child of its own. And so have had several folks that have come in over the years trying to figure out how to develop that piece of property. And today we have a minor subdivision application and the private road request for that piece of property. And I just want to do my little spiel and then, oh, that was good. Thank you. Like, Merle Van Houten is here to present on behalf of the applicant. So just to give kind of a recap of where it's located, it is in a residential multifamily zone, as is the Honeysuckle Glade PUD planned unit development currently to the north and east of the property. Residential multifamily zone is established to provide higher density residential housing. Areas served by collector and arterials, and Reed Road is considered a collector. It's kind of proposed eventually to connect someplace to the south on Prairie. The zone shall be characterized by buildings or groups of buildings containing multifamily dwelling units. And this is a plat map that was on page 4 of the memo that was provided to you. It's kind of a longer page. I think it was a little sideways, so you might have to turn your paper. The private road is proposed to be in a separate tract. Private roads have to be maintained by the homeowners association. Private roads have to meet Hayden City Code, Title 10, Chapter 3, the private road standards. This is an infill lot with limited access because collectors and arterials have access restrictions based on our access policies. Subdivision code requires that any new lot has to have 30 feet of frontage on a private or public road. Private roads are limited, have a limitation to only allowing 15 dwelling units on the private road. It's important to note that each of these lot sizes is large enough. They're 15,000 square feet up to 17,000 square feet. So they're large enough to have 4 plexes or higher in the residential multifamily zone. However, a private road, should it be allowed by city council, would restrict the number to 15 dwelling units because that's all you can have on a private road. And then any turnaround that happens on this, in this area for these 4 lots must meet fire and city requirements. And the city council could approve with conditions or deny the request. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Merle to answer questions that you may have. Is this the one you want me to leave up?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Oh, I was just going to say, and Alan may be able to answer questions that you may have.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Merle Van Houten. I'm the owner of Van Houten Consulting and Design and the engineer of record, or will be the engineer of record if you choose to approve this project. So I just to clarify, I believe the request tonight is solely the private road request. And the minor subdivision will be heard at another hearing, brought for you for another hearing. So the reason I'm representing tonight is because I am the engineer who has laid out the road. I'm not I'm not the representative of the developer who has put together that minor subdivision application. That's a different entity, just to be clear about, you know, who I am and what I'm talking about tonight, So Donna touched on all the points, and I've worked with Donna and Rob Wright to develop this layout. I've taken feedback from them and made adjustments. In addition to working with Tyler Drexel over at Northern Lakes, I have email documentation that he is on board with this as well. So it's been a pleasure to work with your staff as well as the fire district in coming to this that's before you tonight. So as Donna said, we've tried to figure out what to do with this piece. We've come to a layout that has 4 lots of 15,000 square feet or more, and she's talked about that. But you know, the important point she did bring up is that we are going ahead with this with the understanding that the private road will limit us to 15 dwelling units. We feel that with the current configuration of Reed Road, you know, that we will be able to serve, you know, a mixture of, you know, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, whatever combination we want to get to that 15 units, you know, with this private road. In addition, there will be an emergency access that, I'm gonna step away, that will come back out this way. It'll be strictly emergency access. In addition, there will be, you know, a turnaround here for passenger vehicles. So those, you know, some of the items that we worked through with staff and with the fire district to get where we are tonight. I really don't want to take up too much of your time. We've had a long meeting, so I'd like to just open it up to questions and hear what you have to say.
I have a question for you. What is the size of your parcel?
The overall size, just bear with me a moment.
It says it on the map. It's 300.
Does it say it on the map?
Yeah.
I can't.
So square footage and acreage.
Let me see here. Total area.
1.6 acres, does that sound
1.6,
right?
thank you, Donna.
Thank you very much.
Yep, 1.6.
Questions of council?
I have some questions. Why a private road rather than a public?
Why a private road rather than a public?
Is it going to be gated?
No, it's not going to be gated.
So public could use the road?
There's nothing that prohibits the public from driving in there if they want to, I guess, but it's not a road that will be publicly maintained. It won't
Which
be
was my next question.
accepted into the city's infrastructure.
We have an obligation to.
If it's a public road, we'd have an obligation to maintain it. It doesn't provide any services to the public at large. Therefore, a private road fulfills all the needs that, without putting a burden on the city of maintaining that road. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's why I'm just curious why a private over a public. You'd think that you let the city plow it, but somebody's going to have to plow it.
Right, yeah, there will be an HOA formed to take care of the maintenance. In fact, was that, yeah, maintained by an HOA, bullet point number 2. Yeah.
That's all I have.
Other questions? Okay. Anything else, Donna? Are you good on that?
I have a question.
Yes, go, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. I apologize.
So is the use of the private road maximizing the number of lots you can have on it? Or?
Boy, there's a lot of different ways you could slice that. You know, with what we're proposing, you know, to create these lots of 15,000 square feet, and I think your statement's accurate. You know, we could come to you with a proposal for, you know, a CUP or some other mechanism to develop this lot, but I think, you know, for developing a 4-lot subdivision, we've really tried to maximize what we can do.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions of council? I would appreciate then a motion from council to either approve, deny, or approve with conditions the private road easement in front of us.
I'll make that motion. Make the motion that we approve the TLP Enterprise private road request.
Second.
Do we have any further comment or discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
And Council President Roder?
Yes.
Motion passes. And thank you very much for sitting through the rest of our meeting tonight. We appreciate it. Okay, we're down to the section here where we have some reports that come up. Brett, do you have some reports for us? Any?
Just real quick, just a couple items, and this is a reminder, and Susie can chime in if she wants, but the Hayden Days is coming up, 22nd and 23rd, and that's always a fun event. We've got a flyby to start the parade, and with airplanes, and the mayor and council are invited to be in the parade as usual, and I think Roger brought up the candy. I guess we'll need to make sure we have candy for the parade. And I think we're arranging vehicles for you to be in. And so that's on Saturday morning. The parade starts at 10, and they want you there usually at 9:30-ish.
23rd, right? Not this Saturday.
Not this Saturday, a week from this Saturday. And so that's just a fun event. Keep on your radar. I just want to mention we had another citizen task force, public safety task force meeting this last week, and I think they're making some good progress. We have one more scheduled for I think it's in 2 weeks. So they're kind of narrowing down what they want to do and what they want to recommend, and we've just been trying to provide the information they've asked for. And anyways, it's a good group. They have had good discussion, and they don't all agree on everything. There's kind of a wide range of thoughts and ideas on it, which is, I think, is healthy for that type of a group. And then when they get to the point they're ready, they'll vote on something, and we'll see what happens. And then I just would mention, I heard one of you won't be here for the meeting on the 26th. That is an important meeting for us as far as approving the tentative budget, so hopefully the rest of you can make that. Because we approve that tentative budget, and then Sandy can then publish it in the paper to let folks know when that is, and get ready for the public hearing.
We don't have any more workshops on that schedule before then, or are we going to meet before like we did today?
Excuse me.
I don't think, I don't think we need to. I think we worked through most of the issues, but if any of you have any questions, once that tentative budget is set, we can still modify the budget, we just can't raise it anymore. It has to be less than what we had proposed, so we still have some room to move things. But we do need to keep it going. So anyways, I think we've, tried to go, provide enough detail, because I know we've got 3 of you that are new through the process, and you've had some good questions and thoughts on. So anyways, that's all I have. Appreciate it.
Item 5B, do we have any items to come up for a roundtable discussion this evening?
Hard to believe, isn't it?
Especially from you.
That's what I'm talking about. Oh, wait a minute.
Hearing none, may I have a motion for adjournment?
Got it.
Second. We are closed. Adjournment at 7:02. Thank you very much for everybody staying through this. We appreciate it.